decided I'm just going to do a random live and I'm going to rip on the 80s, particularly 80s stuff, because I had fun talking about the Thornbirds yesterday, but there's so much more that people of my generation, which is Generation X, we grew up with some very questionable entertainment that served as, like, we were in our formative years, and it sort of gave a wrong impression, I think, of how things should be and what's cool. I mean, it was a wonderful time, don't get me wrong. It was a wonderful time for entertainment, but it was also kind of messed up. I'm not even going to get into the Cinemax After Dark of it. Hey, Moodia, what are you doing? That reminds me, I need to set my chat settings, make sure I have everything here. All messages, yes. Hey, Moodia. So I'm going to talk about the 80s some more, and 80s stuff that I watched while I was growing up. So I don't know how old you are, Maria. I feel like are you around my age? Hmm. Um, what? Okay. I was going to talk about, let's start with the Dark Crystal. Dark Crystal, love it. Wonderful. You're 41. Okay. So you're a millennial, and that's great. You guys are getting up there too. You had your own you had your own questionable experience with the 80s and early 90s, and I really appreciate that. That was a different time for you. For me, I'm going to concentrate on the early 80s for now. And I was about to talk about the Dark Crystal. I don't know if you've ever seen the Dark Crystal, but if you have, watch it. It's amazing. Probably, probably some of Jim Henson's best work. Wonderful puppetry, wonderful everything about it. But the message was messed up because here you have, okay, so if you know anything about the Dark Crystal, there are the Gelflings, like Jen thinks he's the last Gelfling, which is this race of little elf creatures that were wiped out by these dark entities called the Skeksis. And they basically exterminated them because there was a prophecy that a Gelfling would bring down the reign of the Skeksis. So they were like, let's exterminate them all, and then that prophecy won't come true. And they live for like hundreds of years thinking there are no more Gelflings. But surprise, surprise, Jen is living, and he is being raised by their counterparts, which are the mystics. And as you come to find out, the mystics and the Skeksis used to be one species. They were one creature, and they were split into two by a magic crystal that got broken, and then they came apart and they split into their two halves, their evil halves and their good halves. That's simplifying it a lot, but that is, that's how they came to be. So the mystics raise Jin. He's the only Gelfling he's ever known. And then he comes of age, and he's like, they're like, it's time to go exploring. Oh yeah, that's right. His foster dad is like, Jen, I'm old and dying. It's time for you to go out. You need to find the shard, because you're the one that is going to heal the crystal and bring balance back to this magical place we all live in. And they're like, I don't know anything about that. What are you talking about? He's like, just go find this witch in the forest. And then he dies. And so Jen is walking around, wandering through this magical land. and he has no idea what he's doing, no idea where he's going. He stumbles into a witch, Agra, who is basically, as you later find out, not in this series, but later you find out that she was kind of responsible for the whole thing happening because she was supposed to protect the planet, and she believed the Skeksis that they would do it, or she believed something would happen, and then this all came to crap. Anyway, so he stumbles on her, and she's like, hey, I knew you were coming. You're a Gelfling. You must be the one. I think I have the shard. Here's the shard. And he's like, which one is it? I was like, I don't know. I'm not here to do everything for you. And so he takes out his little fluty flute and he plays a note, and then the real shard appears, and it's the one that's going to heal the crystal. So now he has a shard, right? And I'm doing all this setup for a reason. So he has the shard. Finally, he has the most important part of his journey. Now he has to go to the actual crystal, which is where the Skeksis live, and they're hoarding the crystal, and they're using it to like do all sorts of evil magic. While on his journey, he runs into what do you know it? There's a female Gelfling. She thinks she's the only Gelfling she thought she was the last one. And she was raised by these, what were they called? The Podlings. They were like these little tiny Muppet, even more Muppety than this Muppet world. They're even more Muppety than that. And she was raised by them. She speaks their language. She's completely fluent. She also has a wonderful rapport with nature, and she knows how to call birds and beasts and cricket creatures to her. She can do all this stuff. She's the real deal. You think, okay, she's got all these talents. She's got all this knowledge and experience and know-how. Jin's just got the shard, but just because he's got the shard, he's the one that's most important. And this is a very early lesson for girls, children, growing up. It doesn't matter how accomplished, how competent the girl is, the female is, the dude is the one with the shard. So it's about him. So I didn't like that. I already didn't like that. But, whatever. So they're clearly supposed to be love interests because, they're the last two Gelflings on Earth, as far as they know. Or isn't Earth? I'm just saying it's Earth. It's not Earth. Whatever planet they're on. So they go together, and they're like, okay, yeah, let's go. You've got the shard. I've got knowledge of the forest and everything else, Jin. Let's go to the Skeksis and heal the crystal. And she is constantly keeping him out of danger. Excuse me. Sorry, I had almost choked on my words because it makes me mad still. She's constantly saving his behind. She's constantly pulling him out from under some stupid rock, or they're getting chased. She has to fly him off a cliff. Because guess what? Gelfling girls can fly. She can even fly. She has wings. They get chased off a cliff. She has to grab him, chase him, like float him down, and her little dog, or her little whatever, Fizzgig. I love that creature. I wanted a Fizzgig. But anyway, so she flies him all the way down. She flies him to safety. She's keeping him. Oh, also, then they figure out they hold hands, and then they could like mind meld. And so she knows everything about him. He knows everything about her. But he doesn't know nothing. So, it's like not a fair exchange. Like, she just gets a preview of his childhood, and then he gets all her upbringing and all her experience and everything. So that's not fair, but I don't even think he retained it. So he didn't even retain what he was so useless. This is my point. He was so useless. The only thing he had was a shard. And this is what really makes me mad. So they finally get to the Skeksis. The Skeksis were awful. Every bit as awful as you can imagine, right? They were also kind of awesome. But maybe I'll get into that later. So the Skeksis are like, oh my God, I think I saw a Gelfling. I think I heard a Gelfling. There might be a Gelfling in here. And, they're kind of freaking out. They're sending little bats, like little spies everywhere, trying to eradicate these Gelflings that are coming to kill them. And they end up getting caught. Or no, the female Gelfling ends up getting caught. Her name was Kira. I'm remembering now. Her name was Kira. She ends up getting caught because of, I think it was because of something stupid Jen did. She gets caught and swept up, and they're holding her prisoner, and they're like, oh, ew, gross, a Gelfling. And then they're going to juice her with the dark crystal. That's what they've been using it for. They have been using the crystal to suck the life essence out of innocent creatures. And that's what they're doing to her. And so she's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So, you think Jen's going to come to the rescue? No. She comes to her own rescue. They're sucking the life out of her with this magic crystal. And she calls, because she knows the language of all animals everywhere. She calls for all the animals all over the planet to come bum rush the Skeksis castle, and then they just wreak holy havoc on this Skeksis place, and everything is being turned over. Skeksis are falling into fires. They're running, they're hiding, they're screaming. There's everything. There's just pure pandemonium. She did that. Gets herself free from the magical torture chamber, and then hides herself, and she's waiting for Jen to show up with the crystal, because that's the one thing he's supposed to do and he can do. So she waits. He eventually shows up, and they're like, okay, there's the crystal. Jen, do it. Do your thing. Do the crystal. He jumps onto the crystal, and he drops the shard. You guys, he dropped the shard. That was, he had one job. He had one job this whole movie. One job. And he drops the shard. So now what does she have to do? She has to fly down to get the crystal shard and throw it to him. But of course, she has to put herself in harm's way to do it. So she flies down, gets the shard, throws it back to him, and she gets stabbed to death while doing that, because he was so useless. But he puts the crystal in. He's like, oh, no. And he jumps down, and he's holding her dying, dead body. And he's like, oh. And she's like, Jen, you had one job. She didn't really actually say that, but that's what I felt. I was like, he had one job. All he had to do. He couldn't even, oh my God. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad, you guys. It makes me so mad. What was he there for? What was the purpose? Why didn't he just give her the shard? That's what he should have done. He's like, oh, here, you're the last Gelfling. And she could have done it. She could have just flown there and done it, and it would have been, anyway, anything to give a dude a chance to feel like he's doing something. Anyway, so that's the dark crystal. I felt some kind of way about the dark crystal. I didn't understand what I was feeling, but I was feeling some kind of way. I felt like this is not, I don't know. Everyone was like, oh, it's so lovely, and oh, what a wonderful story. Oh, the dark crystal, they kill the shard, and then the Skeksis and the Mystics all come back together, and then they use magic to bring Kira back to life, and then I guess they're together happily ever after as Gelflings. I don't know if there's other Gelflings. I don't know anything, but that's what happens. So, in case you haven't seen it, I'm sorry I spoiled it for you, but watch it anyway, because you will be every bit as frustrated as I was, I'm sure. Anyway, Okay. But that was the 80s was full of stuff like that. It was like taking for granted that, girls are not as important as boys and there's other stuff. I mean, that was the Dark Crystal. What was another one? I mean, there's so many examples. Like just the John Hughes movies alone, terrible, terrible examples to live by. 16 Candles. Oh my God, 16 Candles was about a 16-year-old girl who, on her birthday, is basically being stalked and harassed by a bunch of boys. That is the whole movie. She's being stalked and sexually harassed by a bunch of boys, and all she wants is the one guy she likes. She just wants his attention. She wants a dance or something like that with him. That's all she wants. But all these other dudes are vying for her attention and basically throwing themselves at her and making propositions with her. And it was just not the look. And it's supposed to be one of the most, oh, this is so romantic. It was horrible. It was horrible. Her life, that was not a good life. I did not envy. I did not want to be. I was a little younger than her. I was like, that's not going to be my 16 candles. I'm not going to be like nerds follow me around asking for my underwear. I'm sorry. No, that is not how I plan to spend my sweet 16. And there were always, it was just awful, but we were supposed to think it so cute. Revenge of the Nerds. You were supposed to think, oh, they're so cute and harmless and nerdy and dorky, but they were predators. They were predators. They terrorized the campus. I think they terrorized the campus way worse than the jocks did. Like the jocks were jerks and they had their own, but like they did just as much sexually harassing, I think, as the jocks. And like, I don't know. I have to watch it again. But they were kind of creepy. I didn't like them either. Um, Can't Buy Me Love. My favorite 80s movie. Can't Buy Me Love. But basically, it's about a teenage boy who pays a girl to be his girlfriend. And um, yeah, that's what it is. That's the whole movie. He pays her to be his girlfriend. I mean, to pretend to be his girlfriend. Let's keep it 100. He pays her to pretend to be his girlfriend because she's popular. And she's like, I need the money. Sure. And so he's getting popular off of her. She's really catching feelings for him because they're spending quality time together. And he's not feeling it at all. He's just thinking, I can't wait to be popular. I can't wait to be popular. And he's literally got the most beautiful, most popular girl in school. He's got her full attention. He doesn't notice this because all he cares about is being popular. I never cared about being popular either, Maria. And I commend you because what's the point? And this is the thing about being popular in high school. You're trying to impress a bunch of kids. Why? What do they have? And even when I was that age, when I was 16, like, what does another 16 have going on in their life that I should be like, ooh, 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 I want their opinion. I want their feedback. 16s don't have anything. They don't know anything. Even if they have stuff, even they have cars and everybody wants to go to the dance with them and they have the latest club. Nobody cares. They didn't do that. Their parents did that. I mean, it's different now, I guess, where everybody can be an influencer and kids now they can be millionaires by the time they're 15. So, I mean, it's different now. So kids today don't understand. But back in my day, Everything you had was from your parents or is from some after school job that you had to work because you didn't have rich parents. So what's to be excited about? And I could never get that. I was like, who cares? The most popular 16-year-old in the school. Who cares? They're 16. Anyway, you get my point. Popularity, who cares? All right. I got off topic. I'm trying to use up my 30 minutes, you guys. Um, what else? What shows? What shows did I watch? Well, since Maria, you're a little younger than me, so let me try to stick to something you might remember. Like, did you ever watch? No, I don't know. You're only 41, so you still, that means because my sister is 41 and she was born in 86. And I was already babysitting her. And um, I know that she doesn't remember certain things, so you probably don't either. I guess I guess I have to. I don't know. Let's skip to the 90s. Blossom. Did you watch Blossom? Oh, you got 84? Okay. You might remember. Do you remember Small World? About the robot little girl? The little girl who was a robot and they were trying to pass her off as their daughter. And she just would talk like this. I am Vicky. Please, please stop dressing and undressing me. Stuff like that. That was kind of weird. You did see Small Wonder? Yes. Okay, I'm glad you remember Small Wonder. Small Wonder was weird. It was weird, you guys. I don't know. I felt dirty after. And I can't explain it. It wasn't overt. I don't know. Small Wonder, it didn't sit right. I guess I know too much about what people do with humanoid dolls and robots and like what they're trying to do. So I guess I never vibed with that. You had a neighbor that looked like her? How funny. Did she get teased for that? So funny. So, and then, because then I'm trying to think of stuff. What was big in like 89, 90? Because that was like 88, 89 or something like that. Um, uh, I mean, people used to ask, are you sure you're not her? Are you sure you're not her? I'm sure that was so fun for her. I'm sure it was fun for the real actual girl. What happened to her? Do we know what happened? Is she okay? Is she alive? A lot of the 80s child actors did not make it. So I'm kind of concerned. Punky Brewster. I don't know if you remember Punky Brewster. I actually liked Punky Brewster, and I still like. I watched some reruns recently. It was actually okay. It was actually kind of weird, but it was actually okay. And she was really inspiring and cute and all that, and you rooted for her. Webster. Webster was weird. I didn't like that. I felt like he was adopted. I didn't feel like he was adopted. I felt like they just took him and they were just keeping him. Um, 90s shows were actually a little bit different. They were trying a little bit harder to be a little bit more realistic and a little bit more relatable and not be. That was another thing. Like everybody had a dead mom in the 80s and 90s. It's like they built whole shows around your mom is dead. I don't know what that was about. Everybody's mom is dead in the 80s and 90s. Um, hmm. What else did I want to talk about? Was there anything else I wanted to talk about? I mean, there was the reruns we grew up on. I know. I'll end it here. Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. Now, I've talked about Bewitched before, and I am shocked at the number of people who don't really remember Bewitched. And I don't understand how that's possible because Bewitched was on every station, every day, all the time. By the time I was coming up, like they went into syndication and they're on right now. They have never stopped airing Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. And yet I ask other Gen Xers about it and they're like, oh, yeah, I didn't really watch it. How could you avoid it? I don't get it. But a lot of us did. And those of us who did, um, Samantha, let me say this. If Samantha, if Darren was actually, if Darren was factually a human being and not just a regular mortal, then she was a predator. If Darren is a mortal, she is a predator. And I'll say if. I'll come back to that if. Samantha, she lives for hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, they're all very long-lived. Like Aunt Clara, she was alive when she talks about hanging out with Socrates and Pythagoras and stuff. So they are very long-lived. Samantha herself, she was at least 400 years old. Or at least 300 years old at that time. And she's going to live for hundreds of years more. What is she doing with a mortal who, from her perspective, it would be like one of us marrying a hamster. And I've said this before, I say this all the time. It is like she married a hamster. And it is no wonder her entire family was so against it and trying to break it up because she was obviously having some kind of psychotic breakdown that she was trying to marry a hamster and have babies with a hamster and a whole life with a hamster and live like a hamster lives. That is what she was doing. She had the power to live anywhere, go any place, anytime, live forever. And she's decided to settle down with a hamster. So no wonder, that is weird. And everyone felt bad for Darren because he would try to set limits and say no witchcraft and everything, like no witchcraft in the house, don't do that. I don't want you to raise our kids like this. And at first, I was like everyone else, and I was like, boo hiss, he is prejudiced against witches. But when it comes down to it, the actual power imbalance, of course he's trying to negotiate some semblance of equal footing because he's not going to live as long as her. He can't do anything. He can't wriggle his nose and disappear. He can't turn people into things, but he was turned into things endlessly. He was endlessly messed with. Endlessly messed with. Manipulated he was abused. He was abused in that relationship. And even though she tried to protect him, sometimes she was the one turning him into stuff and doing stuff to him. And I mean, it was just not fair. It was a massive, creepy power imbalance. And if he is immortal, he is amortal, not immortal, amortal. If he is amortal, she's a creep. And that's gross. Now, I'm coming to the if part. I have, in recent months, started to rethink what would be in it for her. And I've come to this beautiful conclusion that actually wraps it up and makes it beautiful again. There is the possibility that Darren is actually a witch himself. However, he is under some kind of amnesia spell, and it's some kind of punishment for some wrongdoing, perhaps. But he's under amnesia and he's forced to live a series of lives as a mortal, as a mortal, but he never understands that he's actually got the powers. And if that is the case, then it does make sense for Samantha to partner with him, because they were probably together before his amnesia and before he was relegated to this punishment in a series of mortal lives. And she is just sticking with her man through all his mortal incarnations. And it is okay to have kids with him. And of course, Tabitha, she never had like half powers. She never had half witch powers or anything like that. She always had full powers from the get-go. That was kind of suspicious. If she was a half witch, why does she have full powers? She had extra power. She was extra powerful. So I think he was actually just having a series of mortal lives, and he was under an amnesia spell. And I think possibly everyone else that was in that show that was mortal, probably under the same kind of spell. Probably Larry was also under the same spell, and his parents were under the same spell. Like, they were all being punished to think that they're just mortals and they have to live life, and that the other witches that aren't under the spell, they have to think that they have to treat them as regular mortals. And there's probably like a class thing, or like there's, sort of separation, like they're kind of untouchable in that way. And so there's a little prejudice there with Samantha being with someone who's basically under house arrest, and he's imprisoned in this spell forever. But it makes more sense. It makes much more sense that's what's going on, and she's sticking by him, than it does that she just randomly took up with a hamster and decided to settle down for a couple of years with a hamster. Okay? I want you to think about it. I Dream a Genie. I would get to it, but you know what? I did my 30 minutes and I'm out of here, baby. So maybe I'll come back to I Dream a Genie one day. That is a different kind of messed up, but I have different feelings about it. And surprisingly, they're not as bad as one would think. So I'll leave you there. I love you all. Thank you for watching, and I will be back.